馬車迎えに来るの迎えに来るのね誰かが私を連れて行くのね白い花の道へ風のふるさとへ連れて行くのね連れて行くのね
Does your ankle hurt?
A bit, especially when I run. It's not quite strong yet.
You must be more careful then.
I'll try not to run.
I'm glad you're up and about.
So am I.
It was October before Anne's ankle had healed and she was ready to go back to school. Prince Edward Island was enjoying a glorious red and gold autumn. Anne was glad to go to school because she'd heard such exciting things about the new teacher, Miss Stacy.
Oh, Diana, isn't it glorious? I have the feeling that everything is welcoming me. The trees, the fields, and even the birds. They're all happy to have me back. Diana, sometimes life is simply splendid.
It must seem good after you've been cooped up inside the house for so long. There they are.
Anne, how are you? You've been away so long.
Hello, Anne.
You still run as fast as ever?
I think so.
And is your leg all right?
Yes, thank you, Charlie. It's fine. We're happy you're back at school, Anne. We really missed you, you know. Oh, really? That's very sweet of you. I missed you all, too.
That's Miss Stacy playing ball with the boys.
Miss Stacy always wins. Nobody beats her.
Show him, Miss Stacy! The boys have all tried to beat her, but they can't. It's only Gil... Oh, he's the only one who's ever managed it.
Look out!
Well, that's more than enough for today.
That's fine, Miss Stacy, but you better watch out tomorrow.
Oh, I will.
Good morning, Miss Stacy. I'm much better.
Oh, good morning, Anne. Did you walk all the way?
Yes, Miss Stacy.
Of course, we all have to take on challenges sometimes, or else our lives would be very dull. But if we do it with the wrong motive, because we imagine our honor to be at stake, we mustn't be surprised if the outcome is not quite satisfactory. Anne Shirley experienced just that. She broke her ankle. The reason for this painful experience was a game, and this new game is called Daring. What I don't like about the game is that it has no rules, and that is precisely why it can be dangerous. That is why I propose the following rule. When one of the players refuses to accept a dare, He only loses a point if the challenger can prove that he can do it himself. That ought to put paid to any more silly and dangerous dares. Why do you suppose all games have rules? We would not be able to play any sport without rules. All right, let's start today's lesson. I want everybody who knows the answers to the following questions to speak up together. Can you tell me to which country this flag belongs?
The flag of Great Britain, the British flag.
Correct. And what about this flag?
The flag of France, the French flag.
Every country in the world has its own flag. But not only countries have flags, as you know, every province of Canada has its own flag. And I've asked myself why our school doesn't have a flag. I think it would be grand if Avonlea School had its very own flag. A flag that would be typical of Avonlea School. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't see this as
I bet we're going to make our own flag.
Please take out your coloured pencils and paper and start designing a flag for the school. We'll hoist our flag during sports meetings and other school activities. It will give us a sense of belonging and pride in our school. The flag must represent something typical of our school. Think carefully about the task I've set you before you start drawing. Don't just draw any old thing that comes to mind.
Calm down, Anne. You're behaving as if you'd never had any problem with that ankle.
Oh, Marilla, Miss Stacy is marvellous. I love her with my whole heart. She's so ladylike and she had such a sweet voice. When she pronounces my name, I feel instinctively that she's spelling it with an E.
Oh, really?
Of course, I don't admire her only because she pronounces the E of Anne. She's good at everything she does.
Aye. What's that scroll of paper you're carrying?
Oh, this. It's my flag. There.
If you hadn't told me, I would never ever have guessed it was a flag, Anne.
Well, I wasn't very successful. We were asked to design a flag for the school, and I suppose I put a bit too much on mine. Miss Stacy chose only 3 of all the designs the children made. Every pupil in Avonlea School did a drawing. Unfortunately, my flag wasn't in the running. Just imagine, Marilla, Norman Campbell was one of the 3 finalists.
What a lovely surprise to find such talented artists in the Avonlea School.
I thought Norman Campbell's flag was the best. It was so unexpected. Norman had never been given any praise. He is always very quiet in class and seems to daydream most of the time. Mr. Phillips used to scold him every day.
This is an excellent design, Norman. We are all very proud of you.
It was the first time Norman had ever had any praise at school, the very first time. When I grow up, I would also like to be as fair and impartial as Miss Stacy. She doesn't look for mistakes as Mr. Phillips used to. She tries to find out what we can do. She really wants to discover our talents.
That sounds encouraging.
Yes, it is. Do you know, Marilla? Although I wasn't very successful with my idea for the school flag, Miss Stacy will think much better of me tomorrow.
Oh, and why should she do that then?
Because of the homework she gave us. It's a composition, and I love writing compositions. How the writer pictures her future. Doesn't it sound grand?
It does. I'm sure you'll have no trouble with it.
No, I'll have to start writing immediately. My head is so full of ideas. I think it might explode.
Would you mind rinsing your milk bottle before you explode?
Oh. Anne Shirley, this composition must be sensational. Miss Stacy must be very impressed with your extraordinary abilities.
Anne, come down or your soup will be cold. And how is your composition coming along?
Not at all. I couldn't write one single sentence.
Your confidence seems to have evaporated pretty quickly. Why don't you simply write down whatever enters your head?
I can't write down such a confused muddle of thoughts. I must try to get my thoughts into some kind of order first. But I can't. There are simply too many ideas floating about. When I consider my looks and my behaviour, I'm almost sure I won't find a minister who'll want to marry me, but one must face facts. It would be far better for a girl with my looks to think about a career. There's nothing else to be done. I decided today that I would actually quite like to be a teacher when I grow up. But the Avonlea school doesn't prepare one for that, of course. And I suppose one has to be much more intelligent than I am.
But Anne, didn't you tell me that both your parents were teachers?
Yes, that's the reason why I thought that I might become a teacher too. My mother was probably not as exceptionally beautiful as Miss Stacy, but I'm sure she was equally dedicated as a teacher. On the other hand, I sometimes think that being a teacher is something far too ordinary for me. I would dearly love to be a remarkable person. I could train as a nurse and go to the battlefield with the Red Cross as a messenger of mercy to the poor wounded soldiers. Or I could become a foreign missionary and go off to darkest Africa. That would be very romantic. But of course one would have to be naturally good to be a foreign missionary, and that would be a stumbling block for me. How could anyone with red hair ever be naturally good?
There you have your composition. Just put down on paper everything you've told us. Miss Stacy wants to know what you think and how you feel.
Huh?
She'll understand, Anne. You say Miss Stacy is a good teacher. Well, now, if she is, she'll understand perfectly.
Are you sure? Yes, of course, you're right. Thank you. Now my thoughts don't seem so muddled anymore.
Eat your food while you get them in order then, child.
Yes, I even have an appetite now. I have often thought I would like to be a teacher someday, but I'm not quite sure whether it is the right choice for me. Because I also dream of achieving something remarkable, as a missionary, for instance.
Miss Stacy was impressed with the composition, and this increased Anne's adoration of the teacher. But Anne was not alone in her admiration. Miss Stacy was a bright, sympathetic young woman with a happy gift of winning and holding the affections of her pupils and bringing out the best that was in them mentally and morally. She opened their eyes to the beauty of nature, and they didn't look on plants and animals as something to be taken for granted. Even singing suddenly became fun as they began to comprehend the meaning of the songs they learnt.
As you know, Christmas is fast approaching, and I have an idea for a project that you might all enjoy. How would you like to prepare a Christmas concert that we could hold in the Avonlea Hall on Christmas night?
We'd love it.
I'm glad all of you are so enthusiastic about the planned concert for a very special reason. I thought we could use the proceeds of the Christmas concert to help pay for our own school flag. I've already had a meeting with the trustees of the school and told them about the school flag, and I assured them that the pupils of Avonlea School would be able to raise the necessary funds with a concert.
It's too sublime for words. I've always wanted to perform on stage. But what are we going to do? We haven't prepared anything.
When the time comes, you will be prepared. We'll present Avonlea with a concert they'll never forget.
Well, you can't sing it all. How are you going to manage a concert? You'll need costumes, decorations, and lots of other things.
We're making most of it ourselves. Miss Daisy says every pupil of Avonlea School will participate in the concert. Some will act or recite poems, while others will play instruments and sing. Miss Daisy says we'll even write our own dialogues. We're having 2 dialogues. The Society for the Suppression of Gossip and a wonderful piece called The Fairy Queen. And a tableau too.
Well, now, and what's that?
It's something like a living picture. And we're going to represent faith, hope and charity.
Are you? That sounds rather difficult to me.
Oh, it is. We're not allowed to speak at all, Matthew. We have to be silent and motionless. But Miss Stacy is such a wonderful teacher. I just know I'll be able to do anything she shows me. People will be talking about this concert for the next 100 years or so. Oh, I promised to meet Diana. She'll be waiting. I do envy you, Diana. I'm sure you will be chosen to sing a solo.
Oh, Anne, nothing's been decided yet, and I bet you'll be chosen to recite a poem or 2.
I have to confess something. I do just about anything to play the role of the Fairy Queen. I'd even jump into this icy cold water, and I hate cold water. Why are you
being silly. You know you don't even look like a fairy queen.
Poor me, I never thought my best friend would insult me so cruelly.
I didn't mean it as an insult, Anne.
It's because of my red hair.
I've never seen or heard about a red-haired fairy queen.
That may be, but that doesn't mean I can't hope. I will never ever believe that there are no red-haired fairy queens anywhere in the world, Diana. Because that would mean all red-haired girls would be left without any hope at all. Oh, why was I afflicted with red hair?
After much thought, I have decided who to cast in the roles in these two pieces. We shall begin with the role of the Fairy Queen, who will be played by one of the older girls. I am sure you're all very anxious to know who that'll be. Jane Andrews will play the role of the Fairy Queen. Jane Andrews, would you stand, please?
Oh, yes, of course, Miss Stacy.
The Queen has 3 maids of honour in her court. Tilly Boulter, Josie Pye, and Anne Shirley. Josie, what's the matter, dear? There's no need to be sulky or disappointed, Josie. All roles are equally important in the theatre. I'm relying on every one of you. When we start rehearsing, you'll soon find that your role is just as enjoyable as that of anyone else's. Whatever we do on stage or backstage, it's important, and we must all do our level best to make our concert a success.
I have only 3 lines. I hope I'll be able to remember them. I have 3 lines too.
You have the biggest role, Jane, and you'll have to learn quite a lot by heart.
Yes, I know, Diana, but I don't mind. I'm glad I got the role and I'll really work hard at it.
The Fairy Queen isn't such a wonderful role, Jane. She mostly just stands around on stage doing nothing, so stop feeling smug about it.
Then you must be quite grateful Miss Stacy didn't pick you for the role, Josie.
She's lucky. Just think how ridiculous a fat fairy queen would be.
That isn't funny, and I still think a red-haired fairy is much more ridiculous than a fat one.
Let's stop arguing. I'm sure there are many kinds of fairies. Fat ones, thin ones, and even redheads.
You are funny, Anne. Although we really don't know what fairies look like. In our play, they look like us. And we want our play to be a success.
And that's why we'll all do our best. I solemnly promise to do that. I promise I'll do my best.
I promise that too.
Josie, let's all join hands and repeat our promise.
We promise to do our utmost for the concert.
Anne!
Could you hear I was in agony, Marilla? Did I convince you I was suffering from a broken heart?
Your wailing gave me a terrible shock. My heart nearly stopped. I thought you'd hurt yourself, Anne.
I'm sorry, Marilla. I was only practicing for the concert. I want my acting to be really convincing.
If you want to be really good, you'd better forget this nerve-shattering wailing.
I can't. I have to express my agony somehow, and it's very difficult to find the exact sound. If I groan too loudly, it doesn't sound heartrending enough, Marilla.
Heartrending groan? Fiddlesticks! It sounded more like a young porker being killed up here.
Did I sound like a pig? Oh, dear. I'll have to change the pitch of my groaning, then.
No, stop that at once. I can't stand it again, Anne. I realise you have to practice, but please wait until I'm outside before you start groaning.
Marilla, I've been chosen to do 2 recitations in the concert, and I have to practice for both. It's an awesome responsibility. In addition to the recitations, I'm in 2 dialogues, and we're to have a tableau depicting faith, hope, and charity. Diana, Ruby, and I will be all draped in white flowing hair. I'm to be hope with my hands clasped, and so my eyes uplifted.
An awesome responsibility. But in this house you also have responsibilities, and I don't want you to forget that.
Of course not, Marilla. I'll do all my chores every day.
Seeing is believing.
I promise, Marilla.
And Marilla was right. Anne could think of nothing but the concert.
Sorrowful shriek!
Oh!
Marilla's words fell on deaf ears. Anne was totally preoccupied.
Doleful groan.
The Barry household suffered a similar fate. All the pupils of Avonlea School were in a fever of excitement. The girls rehearsed the Fairy Queen with immeasurable enthusiasm. Under Miss Stacy's able direction, the children became eager young actors.
Are you making a habit of coming home late, Anne?
I'm sorry, Marilla. We had a rehearsal after school.
If things go on like this, I shall have to speak to your Miss Stacy.
Why, Marilla?
Because she's just filling your head with stuff and nonsense and taking up time that ought to be spent on your lessons. I don't approve of children getting up concerts and racing about to rehearsals. It makes them vain and forward and fond of gadding.
But think of the patriotic purpose of our concert. We're going to get the Avonlea School a flag with the money we make.
Oh, fiddlesticks. There's precious little patriotism in the thoughts of any Avonlea pupil. All you want is a good time.
Well, is there something wrong with combining fun and patriotism, Marilla?
Anne, all I'm asking is that you do your chores and behave yourself when you're at home. I'll be heartily glad when all this fuss is over and you're able to settle down. You're simply good for nothing just now, with your head stuffed full of dialogues and groans and tableaus. And as for your tongue, it's a marvel it's not quite worn out. I don't want to stop you from attending rehearsals, but you must take care to be home before dark.
Do you have something on your mind, Anne?
Yes, I'm wondering whether a school concert isn't as much a part of education as reading and writing is.
Well, now, Anne, I reckon there's no doubt about it. Of course it is.
Then we agree. And you'll understand why this concert is so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
We had a rehearsal after school and I said my recitation. It went very well. I'm sorry you weren't there to hear me. Ruby Gillis paid me such a compliment coming home. She congratulated me and said that my words had just made her blood run cold and that nobody else could play a tragic heroine as well as I can. That's what Ruby said, and I feel so proud.
I'm sure you do. Would you recite your poem for me one of these days? I would really like to hear it.
Would you, Matthew? I will, but you must promise me you'll come to our concert.
Do you think I should? Well, now, I reckon it's going to be a pretty good concert. And I expect you'll do your part well. I just couldn't stay away from such an important occasion.
Thank you, Matthew, thank you. Oh, I can just see the audience hanging breathlessly on my words. And their applause will sound like waves pounding the shore. This concert is going to be the highlight of my life.
Marilla's lecture was forgotten. Matthew's sympathetic words had restored Anne's confidence. She continued going to rehearsals, and although Marilla still didn't approve of the concert, she didn't interfere. Matthew said very little. Christmas was only a fortnight off, and he had a secret. But more about that next time.
湖は遠く燃える雲はもっと遠く